Welcome to the Resilience Training Program, a project created by Seniors Action Quebec, sponsored by Canadian Heritage. This is the third of a six-part series on resilience training. My name is Mirella Castricchini and I would like to share this program with you, and I hope that what you learn through this training will help you grow and develop your resilience skills. Each of the modules contain a general theoretical review on the topic, exercises, and a few scenarios to explore issues that are frequently encountered by seniors. We also include a list of resources that are available in your community to address these issues. Finally, all references are listed at the end of this module, and we encourage you to explore those that interest you most. Who is Seniors Action Quebec? Seniors Action Quebec is a nonprofit organization that works to maintain and enhance the vitality of English speaking Quebec seniors. Its mission is to identify and address challenges and issues in order to promote a healthy and active lifestyle for English speaking seniors. The goal of this program is to build a stronger, more vibrant English speaking seniors network who will be better equipped to engage with the wider community. Its objectives is to provide a series of resilience skills trainings to English speaking seniors that will build confidence, nurture self advocacy, and promote community engagement. This training program uses Dr. Kenneth Ginsberg's model of building resilience skills. Dr. Ginsberg, a child pediatrician and human development expert, proposes that there are 7 integral and interrelated components that create resilience. It is the framework for our 6 modules. What is resilience? Resilience is the quality of recovering quickly from failure and adversity, and not only returning to what was, but using the opportunity to grow and further your personal growth. The third module of the resilience training program is control and coping. As the competencies of control and coping are closely related in their role in enhancing resilience, we will be presenting them as one unit divided in 2 parts. The first part will be focusing on control, and the second, that of coping, presented in Module 4. The objective of this module is to enhance awareness of one's limits of control and how it plays a significant role in coping in stressful situations and in building resilience. To show how adaptive coping builds resilience. Before we continue, let's take a moment to complete this exercise called the Brief Resilient Coping Scale. It is a scale designed to look at what one's tendencies are in coping with stress. The exercise asks you to describe your behavior and actions when dealing with difficult situations. Once you're done, set your answers aside, and we will be reviewing them at the end of this module. Now, in this next exercise, take a few moments to consider a past stressful event and briefly describe the event and what about it was so stressful. For example, a change in residence, a health issue, or a loss of a friend. Well, you can't talk about coping and control without first talking about stress. Stress is the body's reaction to any changes that requires an adjustment or response. The body reacts to these changes with physical, mental, or emotional responses. You can experience stress from your environment, your body, or your thoughts. And how do we respond? The brain immediately sets off a well orchestrated chain reaction in response to the stressor or the stimuli that is presented. The physical response to stress include the autonomic arousal response, that is to say, the increase in heart rate or sweating or blinking, the hormonal response, release of cortisol, the neurochemical responses, as well as the stage of physical exhaustion. The psychological response to stress include anxiety, fear, and frustration. Cognitively, there's a depletion in one's performance, and behaviorally, there's a search for problem solving or looking for help. So, what is the sequence of events that triggers the brain and body to respond? Is the trigger or stressor threatening? Is it a familiar experience? Is it manageable? As mentioned earlier, at the onset of the event, the brain will set off a series of messages to several areas of the body in order to prepare to react or not. Let's take a look at this diagram to illustrate the thinking process that gets us from the stressor or threat to preparation for action. In our example, we see a family crisis or a health crisis as a stressor, which leads to an immediate response termed appraisal. Appraisal is where the process of thinking and assigning meaning to the event takes place, where we ask ourselves, what does this mean to me? What do I understand about this? And then go on to evaluate. Is what I'm seeing or experiencing posing a danger? If not, then it is appraised as irrelevant stress. Or is it a positive stress, where the stress is seen as one which will yield a favorable or welcomed result? Think of a purchase of a new home or having a baby. Or is it benign? For example, you have a fear of mice, and as you see one scurrying in front of you, then see a dog chasing it away, your stress is dismissed, and thus making your stress benign. If, however, the event is appraised as stressful and you perceive it as something you are incapable of dealing with, you are quickly moving towards the second review of the event or engaging in reappraisal, whereby we begin another thinking process. First, there's a mental preparation, evaluating the harm that it can cause. Or third, finally interpreting the event as one that requires immediate action. There's a sense of urgency to deal with the challenge. So, what then if we're appraising the stressor as a challenge? How do we respond? The fight, flight, or freeze response is your body's natural reaction to danger. It's a type of stress response that helps you to react to perceived threats. The flight response being that of reacting and fighting off the threat, whereas the flight response, we are running away from the threat. And the freeze response is described as a genuinely overwhelming and paralyzing response that is thought to happen when neither fight or flight is available to us. That is, we've been so overpowered, overwhelmed, or trapped, there is no option to either flee or fight, and then we freeze. Now, although we're no longer fighting off saber-toothed tigers for survival, when we are facing stressors that are interpreted as overwhelming or threatening, we tend to resort to the same survival mode response. This illustration summarizes the appraisal process, and it is with the perception of one's inability to cope that we experience negative stress. And as mentioned previously, our response to dealing to a threat can vary depending on our interpretation of the event. It goes without saying that this is where the individuals seek whatever resources available to him to reduce or eliminate the negative stress. And the ability to reappraise stressful experiences as less threatening is necessary to deal with circumstances that are overwhelming. It is especially significant when we are dealing with resilience. So, if stress is the reaction to an event and coping is a response to relieve the stress, how do we cope without getting an accurate picture of our personal control? Control. Successful coping depends largely on the controllability and predictability of the stressor. The more confident we feel we can control the situation, the greater the ability and readiness to cope with the situation. When we speak of control in the context of coping, we are looking at the concept of perceived control, which refers to the person's belief about his or her own capability of how much influence they can control their own feelings or behaviors, as well as of their environment. Perceived control is also known as locus of control. The following exercise will give you an idea of where your locus of control is. Exercise 3, locus of control. For each of the following pairs of statements from 1 to 15, select which statement is most true for you, either A or B, without taking more than a second or two to think about it. Choose quickly, and as you go through the statements, write your choice of A or B next to the number you have written. As explained earlier in our definition of perceived control, locus of control is a psychological concept that refers to how strongly people believe that they have control over the situations and experiences that affect their lives, and whether the outcomes are contingent on what one does or does not do. Internal and external locus of control. The individual with an internal locus of control is one that believes that events that happen to him or her are a consequence of their choice and actions, and because they do, they are more confident in their ability to influence their future and hence more resilient in the face of extreme circumstances. Whereas one with external locus of control will interpret events as influenced not by their actions or abilities, but by circumstances beyond their control. They are more likely to rely on beliefs and ideas, like luck or fate, to interpret their experience, whether positive or negative. They can easily blame outside forces for their circumstances or don't believe that they can change their situation through their own efforts. When we speak of locus of control, we must also be aware of the over and underestimation of one's locus of control. Either extremes can produce negative results. That is, a person who overestimates what is in their control is said to have a strong internal locus of control. And because of the orientation, they may experience frustration, anxiety, stress, or depression when they cannot see or accept the things that are truly out of their control. For example, another's behaviors or decisions, or a global crisis. On the other hand, one who underestimates his control over what he or she can do is said to have a very strong external locus of control, and they have a tendency toward what is called learned helplessness, meaning they believe that they are incapable of having any influence or effect on the situation, and therefore remain in a state of helplessness. Is one's locus of control or perceived control a personality trait that we are born with, or is it learned, or is it both? Studies have shown that there are several factors influencing perceived control, such as demographic factors, one's age, sex, culture, socioeconomic status, and level of education. The internal resources are those resources that have been developed throughout the years that give us the ability to manage our behavior, thoughts, and emotions, and the confidence to undertake challenges. The external resources available to you, such as community organizations, social programs, or the environment, influence how you appraise the amount of control you have over a given situation. In a review titled Perceived Control in Aging, found in the Journal of Gerontology, researchers Stephanie Robinson and Margie Lackman noted that women reported lower perceived control than men, however, less pronounced in educated women. Women showed a higher perceived control in social domains and in marriage, that there is a relationship between control and education and income. And finally, it can be said that the differences in perceived control in various cultures were more likely a function of economic conditions, values, and religious beliefs. Benefits in perceived control and health outcomes. In the review mentioned earlier, authors discussed work done through the years showing the positive association with perceived control and many age related outcomes involving health and well being. A longitudinal study conducted over a 16-year period in adults 25 to 96 showed that perceived control predicted later changes in health conditions in older adults, suggesting that control beliefs lead to better health outcomes. Those with greater level of perceived control are more likely to engage in health promoting behavior. And higher levels of perceived control was related to less reactivity to negative stressors. The suggestion that underlying mechanisms, such as managing emotions or seeking help and feeling in control, increase the likelihood of adopting to significant life changes and setbacks. The decline in health did not influence perceived control, and though it declines as we age, the ability to adapt to new circumstances is not affected. Perceived control and care plan interventions. Given the findings on control beliefs and health outcomes, this review suggests that healthcare providers learn all they can about their patients' control beliefs regarding their health and the degree to which their patients believe in their role in improving their health. This would equip caregivers to deliver a more effective, personalized care plan. For example, rather than accept medication as a quick fix, a patient may believe that using alternative methods, such as exercising or better eating habits, can improve their health. If the condition is not urgent or requires drastic intervention, the provider is more likely to encourage the healthy behavior before turning to medication. The reverse is also true. If a patient does not believe that change in lifestyle will improve health, he may believe that medication is the only solution. This should invite the healthcare provider to inquire more about his belief and challenging it to help the patient consider other possibilities. So it would be apparent that perceived control has great impact on many areas in our life, as it is obvious that understanding what is in our control is a factor in coping with life stressors and the mechanisms we adopt to deal with them. This table shows a list of controllable and uncontrollable factors in areas where one's influence of control can be applied. The uncontrollable factors include the nature of the event, the availability of external resources, and genetics. The controllable factors are the internal resources, our beliefs and values, the motivation behind our decisions, and the coping styles we adopt to deal with the situation. Exercise 5, Retrospection. The purpose of this exercise is to take a look back at the stressful situation you identified in exercise 2. Answer the following questions to help you evaluate and reframe your perspective on the situation. First question: what were the beliefs, values, or personal standards that contributed to your stress? 2. What other internal resources could you have used differently to manage the situation? For example, controlling your emotional response or drawing from your social skills. 3. What other external resources were available to you and did not use? For example, community organization, social programming, or relationships. 4. What is the locus of control and how did it impact your experience? And how did it serve you? Finally, looking back, what was the silver lining in this situation? How then can we enhance our perceived control? Here are two techniques used in cognitive behavioral therapy to help you challenge your interpretations of what you are experiencing and thinking about in a difficult situation. The first is called the Socratic questioning method, and the other is the ABCDE model. Socratic questioning is a very effective cognitive restructuring technique that can help you to challenge irrational, illogical, or harmful thinking errors. The basic outline for this technique is to ask the following questions. 1. Is this thought realistic? 2. Am I basing my thoughts on facts or on feelings? 3. What is the evidence for this thought? 4. Could I be misinterpreting the evidence? 5. Am I viewing the situation as black and white when it really is more complicated? 6. Am I having this thought out of habit or do facts support it? Practice the Socratic questioning method by answering the questions as you consider a stressful situation that is currently taking place. The ABC model, developed by Albert Ellis in the 1950s, provides a reflective framework. It supports us in changing our emotions and behaviors by identifying irrational beliefs and swapping them with rational ones. Recognize, write down, and then challenge beliefs that are irrational or unhelpful. The process of disputing irrational beliefs can lead to a more authentic, beneficial belief system. You may not have control over your environment, but you do have control over your reactions. Exercise 7, Spheres of Control. The goal of this exercise is for you to become aware of the factors that are within and beyond your control. This awareness can prevent you from wasting precious energy by attempting to control the uncontrollable and can encourage you to invest your energy into the things that are controllable. By the end of the exercise, you'll be asked to reflect on your answers and your learning from it. Transcribe your responses to the table that follows, and this will give you a condensed summary of your work. You may want to use this as a template for all future challenges. And as mentioned earlier, you may want to transcribe your responses to this table. This will give you a good overview of your reflections. And you may want to use this template for all future challenges. Let's go back and review exercise 1 and score your brief resilience coping scale. Step 1, write down the values you assign to each question. For example, question 1 asks, I look for creative ways to alter difficult situations. Now assign the value of 1 if you selected does not describe me at all. Or assign the value of 4 if you selected describes me very well. Then add all your values and find the score on this table. If you scored between 4 and 13, you're considered a low coper. Medium resilient copers score between 14 and 16, and a score of 17 to 20 show high resilience coping. Keep in mind that the score is a snapshot of how you were accustomed to coping. Enhancing your coping skills is possible through various resources, and these modules on resilience can certainly help. You may also want to engage in some of these activities as a way to reduce your stress. And in conclusion, we'd like to quote Maya Angelou, who says, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Thank you for your interest in Module 3. Scroll below for the community resources available to you and the list of all references used in this module. If you are interested in becoming a trainer, please contact Seniors Action Quebec at 438-386-1944 or write us at info@seniorsactionquebec.ca.